Hello, Graham Vincent, violin maker and musician. The last video I did was basically talking about carving of fronts, and that led to a couple of questions about F-holes, and it's a really interesting discussion basically, because actually the refinement of the shape of the front is fundamental to the F-holes. I sort of alluded to it a little bit, but let me explain with a few examples of what I'm actually doing, and we'll go from there. So this is what I'm working on at the moment. I know it's a little bit confusing because it's a figured ash front, and I know it looks more like a back as such. What I've done is I've actually got some felt tip pen out and marked the positions of the F-holes. I mean, normally I would do these in pencil, but that doesn't really show up on the video, so that's why I've done it like this. Okay, so if you just, once you've got the outside shape done, simply thickness the plate and then cut holes, you're going to end up with a very plain, simple style of F-hole. There won't be any movement in what's going on around the F-hole, and you see that on really cheap violins. So bear with me a minute, let me just pick up a cheap violin. Here we go. If you look at that, you can see you've got a front that's been shaped and then someone's cut an F-hole in it. It's not a bad job, but it's very plain. The next thing you start to see, let me just grab another violin. This is a 19th century Scottish violin, and it illustrates, if I can just get a shadow on it, right there. Do you see here? There's a sort of sculpting out of that bottom wing at the side of the F-hole. So they've attempted to give it some shape. So that's sort of a rudimentary first step. And then I'm going to show you now an English violin. Right, this is something a bit more special. This is from the start of the 1700s. It's an English violin. And although there isn't the sort of as much scalloping going on here, what you can see straight away is that the actual topography, if you like, the sculpting of the front around the F-hole means that it isn't just a question of it being flat with a hole cut in it. Now, or smooth, should I say, with a hole cut in it. Now, obviously, some of the differences in the level between the inside and the outside are due to deformation of the plate over the 300 odd years that this violin has been about, but that's not the whole story. If you view this from different angles, you also can see a lot of what I'm talking about. That isn't just a question of the plate having moved. Same there. So I hope that gives you an idea of kind of what I'm talking about here. I don't want this to look like a nice smooth surface that someone has then cut a hole through. If I'm going to put a lot of variation and a lot of shape into it, then I have to do that sculpting of this surface before I thickness the top. If I don't, then parts of it will be, let's say 3mm thick, for example, and other parts might only be 1mm, or you might even run out of top if you're not careful. So the next stage now is for me to actually get in there and do some of the work to get the two different elements, the two different sides of this F-hole working the way that I want them to work. Only then can I go about thicknessing the front and then cutting the actual F-hole itself. I hope that makes sense. I'm going to pop it on sort of a time lapse now so that you can see what's going on. I'll try and get an angle that gives you the best view. I think I'll just go through the process on one F-hole rather than both of them. because you'll be getting bored by the time I finish that otherwise. So let me work out how to put this camera in a good spot. Right, so let me show you what I've done. Now, I'm perfectly willing to believe that a lot of this is on an old violin because of the, the stresses and strains. The fact there's a sound post pushing up here, the fact that the, the bass bar isn't giving as much support long term to the front as the sound post is, for example. But nevertheless, it's still, that is the effect I'm trying to achieve. And if it's valid to actually age and distress your finishes, then surely you want to be building in some of the other things you see as well. But these are all personal choices, and I'm the one who's making this violin. So you make up your own mind, do things the way you want. Now, it's always difficult to show on video what I've done, but I hope that that's a good angle. Can you see just how much lower I have made that side from the center now? So that's good so far. Now, what I'm going to do now as well is I'm going to add a sort of a scoop into this bit here. So, and actually perhaps just bring this bit here down a little bit more as well. Yeah. So I'm quite happy with that. But again, this is personal choice. This is what I want, and you need to make up your own mind. But what I'm hoping I'm showing you is that you need to consider, if you want to have substantial movement and sculpting of the top around F-holes, now is the time to be doing it, before you've thicknessed the top, because there's no way that having thicknessed the top, could I get in there and start taking out this amount of material? I just run out of top. Right, so it's very hard to actually get this across using camera, but I hope you can see some of the subtlety there. Can you see that, that scallop kind of disappeared? It's not just a flat terrain that's had an F-hole cut in it. There is sculpting going on around it. I don't like, let me tell, sorry, I'm wittering again. Hang on one second. On this Scottish one, it very much looks like, this is almost an afterthought. And you can see that they've just taken some weight out of the center here. But the edges, the periphery are all kind of unchanged. And that means that you end up with this sort of lump coming up to the bottom eye of the F-hole. Does that make sense? Do you see what I mean? It's almost like, they've taken something out in this bit here. And so you've got I like this section here. I need a slightly more pointy thing. Hang on a minute. What can I... Here we go. I like this part here to be descending from this being just below the level of that to that being a little bit further down, and then for there to be a rising curve from here up, so that this line here has a lovely continuous sweep round, which is sort of descending, if that makes sense. Let me just show you the one I've just done and see if you can see that. So can you see there's no there's no sort of bulge around the edge of this, which there was no other one. I don't think you can pick it up on, no you can't, but that point there is lower than that point. So that is pretty much level with this. Then it drops down to there, and then this rises up. That's pretty much on one. That does look like it's just cut through the surface, but then from about here, that's where the differences start to come in. So like I say, I've got a nice rich deep scallop here, but this point is already dropped from what was the original surface. Oh gosh, I'm making this sound more complicated than it needs to, really. I'm not telling you this is the, well, that I think that tells you quite a bit, doesn't it, that view? I'm not telling you this is exactly the right way to do it. I can hear myself winding on in a very dictatorial kind of way. I don't mean to. All I'm trying to say to you is consider the effect you want to achieve, and consider at what stage in the making process you have to do that. And for me, because I am quite keen to take out so much around here, that has to be done before I thickness the front. I'm not sure how useful that video is going to be, but I think I more or less got across what I wanted to say. It's just a simple little part of the making, but it's just a question of getting the sequence right to actually be able to achieve the effects you want to achieve. So consider not only the outline of the F-hole, how it looks from the front, but also its 3D geometry, how it looks from the side, what you want the edges to be doing and how they want to be flowing. And like I say, with mine, I like that line to sort of sweep down and then round and down and in almost. Does that make sense? Rather than coming round and up again. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there because I feel with my inadequate way of explaining things, I could go on for hours and probably wouldn't make any more sense. So I really hope you've enjoyed that. If you're not signed up, please subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything or anything like that. And yeah, you get to see me wittering on inanely on a regular basis that way. Okay, look after yourselves. Take care. Cheers, folks. Bye.